Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NFL Alumni Lounge. Now stepping in, two-time Super Bowl champ, the great, the king, Mr. Kenny King. Kenny, how are you?
I'm good, Charlie. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. That is a beautiful cave you got there.
You like that?
I love it. Is that the one of your original right there trading cards for the Raiders blown up?
That's the original card. That was an event that we had with the Raider organization, Super Bowl 15 that Al had made for each one of the players, and that's that. And then I have another one over here from Super Bowl 18, and I have the Super Bowl ball up here on the wall, and it's all coming together. But I have a two-car garage, a detached garage, and it's kind of been collecting junk. So my wife is telling me I have to move all of this out so she can put her knitting and all of her sewing stuff in here and make this back a bedroom.
That's how it goes, man. You're getting moved out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if I put everything together, I mean, finally I opened up boxes, I found stuff that I haven't seen. And I mean, seriously, I haven't seen things in over 30 years.
Wow.
And I found footballs, I found cards, I found pictures. And one of the things that I kind of want to allude to a little bit on this call today is that we've gone to events, Raiders have gone to events and stuff like that. And we've had someone has taken a picture of a group. And I don't think every player that's in that picture actually gets to see it. And for example, let me show you this was in Tokyo. Can you see that?
Wow. That's in Tokyo?
This was in Tokyo. Raiders went to play, I want to say the Dolphins in Tokyo was like 1991. And this is just some of the players that was there. And we all took pictures. We got together and took a picture. I don't know if half these guys even know that this picture exists.
Oh.
And I kind of like to make it so that we can start doing stuff like this and making copies and sending it to every one of these, because a lot of these players are no longer with us.
Oh, you heard that? You heard the ringtone, folks.
That's the wife calling me in the background.
Oh man, tell us about Tokyo.
So it was an exhibition game in Tokyo, and Mr. Davis he took like 100 former players over to Tokyo with him. We stayed at the New Otani Hotel, which was very brand new, and I think we were there for like 4 days. It was just a collage of players that have been with the organization and have now retired. So he took us with him and to the preseason game. Right. There's Gene Upshaw, there's Dan Connors, there's Raymond Chester, there's Ben Davidson, there's myself, Clem Daniels, Morris Bradshaw, Giamotto, Rod Martin, Henry Lawrence. George Blanda.
Oh my God.
That's just to name a few. And here's one of the beauties of that is that we had these vouchers for food. Right. And Raiders, we like to drink instead of eat. So we saved up these vouchers. We saved up all these vouchers for the restaurant. And one afternoon before the game was played, we all went to the bar and started putting these vouchers together and just having drinks, pitchers of beer, and just kind of sitting around talking. And I tell you what, it's one of those things where it's like, if you could have had a recorder, if you could have had a recorder there, listening to the stories of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and from the mouths of the people who were actually there, the Ben Davidson, the George Bland, the Gene Upshaws, Art Shells, listening to those stories was such a fascinating, moment. And I sit back and I look at that and I thought, man, if someone would have had the idea of just bringing a recorder in there, just to record it.
Right.
The stories, the Heidi story, all these different. It was just so much going on. It was such a wonderful time, and and that was one of the trips that I got to go on. And then the next one that they went to was in Barcelona, Spain.
Wow.
The Raiders were playing. They played a preseason game in Barcelona. I didn't make that one. They made other ones since then, but that one there was memorable. I got the picture, the show for it. I got the stories. And even CB was there.
Oh.
Cliff from to this day, he's still going. I know what he's saying. Come on, KK, go for it, KK.
Go, King.
Special K.
Man, it's crazy. It's like Al Davis kind of saw this global stage for the game,
Yes.
kind of before the NFL saw it.
Yeah, Al Davis was a visionary. He saw something. If you listen to him talking, he talked about how he wanted to make this team be the most prestigious team ever in the history of the game, and he's done.
Yeah,
he has made that happen. Al was a visionary. He saw things that other coaches, other owners, other people didn't see. I mean, you look at the legacy of the players and the players who come to the Raider organization, maybe a year, maybe 6 games, whatever. But whatever they did, they dominated. They made a difference in this organization in some capacity, whether it was on the special teams, whether it was on defense, whether it was offense, whatever. They had an impact.
Yeah.
And you go back and let's go back and look at 1980. Perfect example. Right. I mean, 1980. 1980 was a year that, the Raiders, the year before, I think, was in the playoffs. It was like a wild card, but then, didn't go very far. So now you got all these different players. You got Bobby Chandler coming from Buffalo. You got Burgess Owens coming from New York Jets. You got Otis McKinney come from New York Giants. You got Bob Nelson that's coming from Nebby, I think, came from Minnesota. You got Randy McClanahan that came from Arizona. You got Kenny King who came from Houston. I mean, and all of this, all of these players. Cedric Hardman came over from the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow, that's all the same year.
Yeah. Dan Pastorini comes over from the Houston Oilers. Dave Casper goes to the Houston Oilers. And you look at all of these trades and all these mixtures and all this stuff. And I love going back and look at the film. I love looking at the game in the night of the 1980s because it was so mystical because we were not supposed to be where we were.
And you would think you'd need at least a year to gel that thing.
We needed that year to gel, but you know what? We got together and we realized what we were capable of doing. And I look back now. I look back. I was looking at something. I was looking at highlights a couple of weeks ago, and our defense was, they dominated.
Yeah.
They completely dominated, and they stopped teams that were high power. You stopped the San Diego Chargers. If it used to be where whoever's got the ball last is going to win that game.
Right.
And our defense made sure that we didn't fall in that category. So that's a part of Al Davis. That's a part of what he did. That's just players. You talk about coaches. Lou Herbert, Ray Wilsey's, Earl Leggett's, Bob Neshek, Tom Flores. You look at all of these coaches who have come together and now I think we have like 10 coaches at the time. What do they have coaches? How many coaches do they have? 15, 20?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a coach.
You got an army. Every coach got a coach.
Yeah, coach. Coach, you got a coach. I'm coaching you. So, but it's just he made it his way. And I think, and I'm looking at his son and I'm looking at MD and I said he's doing it his way as well. Yeah. And I think I love what the organization is doing. I love the direction the organization is going in. And it just change is good. And we'll talk. I'm sure you want to talk about Las Vegas, the Raiders being in Las Vegas, and how that's going to impact. And what's the impact of that? It's something that needs to happen. It's something that had to happen. And I talked to a lot of fans. I talked to a lot of people. Living here in Fort Worth, Dallas area. There's a couple of Raider Nations here. TNBC is one that I pretty much hang out with, and
Yeah, big Raiders clubs in
yeah,
Texas.
Raider,
A lot of love
yeah,
in Texas.
yeah, they're good guys. Also, that whole group of guys. But it's come completely full circle, and now that the Raiders are going to Las Vegas, it's here and it's a reality. And people talk about, is it a good move? For the city of Oakland and the fans of Oakland, it's a sad thing. But you know what? Tell them to think their mayors, tell them to think their politicians. Those are the ones who didn't want to come up off the money and put a stadium in there. I mean, not once but twice.
Right.
Not once but
Warriors
twice
as well, and now there's talk about the A's possibly being moved. It's crazy.
Charlie, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the city of Oakland? You've lost the Raiders, you lost the Warriors, and now you lose the A's. There's no sports organization that's even around.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were talking about this the other day, and 40 years ago, when I got traded to the Oakland Raiders, I had no idea where Oakland was. I'd heard of Oakland.
Right,
I've heard of the Oakland Raiders, but I didn't know where Oakland was. Oakland? Really? Seriously?
Right.
Oakland?
What are you thinking? You're a Texas boy, and you're Texas royalty. The king is Texas royalty on the football field. You're playing for Houston, and then you go to Oakland. Like, what's going through your head at that point?
I'm excited. I mean, I was excited about the fact that I was going because with the Houston Oilers, I was almost at that point where I was going to get out of football. I was contemplating it. I was talking with Jakey Sandifer, a big old man from Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, and he was going to put me in the business at $35,000 a year, the same salary that I was making playing football.
Wow.
And teach me the business. And I was seriously considering it, and I got a phone call one afternoon, and it was Bum Phillips, and he says, "Hey, things happen in life, and this is most of you ever said to me all season. Things happen in life." And I said, "So, Coach, what's going on?" He says, "Well, we made a trade." I said, "And what's the trade?" He said, "Well, we traded you to Oakland for Jack Tatum." "Oh, great, thank you." Hang up, and I jumped in my car and drove over to the practice field to clean out my locker. So it was very very emotional, very it was good for me at that time because, like I said, I was at the point, like I said, Charlie, I was looking to retire. I was not retiring. I was going to leave football.
Insane. That's insane to hear.
Think about it. I can make $35,000 a year in a suit, learning the oil industry in Texas.
Right.
In Texas.
Right.
Or I can play football, making $35,000 a year. Okay, so it was, the balance was there. But when once I got traded and I got to Oakland, because I sold everything in my apartment within 72 hours. What I didn't sell, I gave away or left it on the curb. I was excited about the move. I stopped off in Clarendon, Texas, where, my hometown. Picked up, dropped off some things there, drove on out to California, stayed at the Oakland Hyatt I got there, and that was in April. I stayed May, June. I was in the Oakland Hyatt learning the system with Lou Erber and Ray Wilsey.
Wow.
Because I was like, at that point, I was like, if I'm not starting by preseason, by the regular season, I'm going to retire.
Holy smokes.
I was not going to tell anyone. I didn't say anything to anyone. And it was a third preseason game that Coach Flores told me, says, "You're going to be our starting halfback." Wow. And I was like, yes.
Wow. That is historic. You got to think, folks, those 2 rings are in jeopardy if the King's not a part of that team.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Bruce Davis. I love listening to Bruce because, Big Bruce loves, he's a historian. And he was talking about the first game we played against, not the first game that we played, because the first game I played against the San Diego Chargers was in San Diego. We lost in overtime.
Right.
It's where I think Plunkett came in and threw a touchdown. He threw a touchdown to Raymond, and but then they came back and won the game. But it was a game in Oakland, and what's his name? Woody Lowe, number 51, outside linebacker. He was used to the Raiders playing two fullbacks, the fullback offense, right? He had never seen my speed. So when we were running 15L, 15L kind of goes right off of the tackle, right in between the guard and the tackle and the 5-hole.
Okay.
When I took the handoff, I hit the hole. He stepped down, I bounced out and left him standing there reaching. And then the next person to me was the strong safety Buchanan, and he had no chance in hell of catching me. It's not. I ain't letting no safety catch me. So, and that's when San Diego realized they've got speed now.
Yeah,
they've got speed. They can get outside.
Yeah.
And I think I had 2 touchdowns. I had the longest touchdown run in Raider history in that game, and then I had another 25, 27-yard sweep on the right side against them. So San Diego realized that real fast. You know what? We have got to change our way of thinking with Kenny King in the game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the other teams in the division realize that as well. So because now it's like you didn't have 2 fullbacks playing in the backfield, and that you can't bounce it outside.
Right. It's not just a power game.
No, it's not a power game. You got finesse. And, and that was one of the things that got me to the Raiders. And Al Davis, when I first met him, I didn't know who Al Davis was. I had not seen him. I was in Oakland. I was in Oakland for May, June, 2.5 months at the Oakland Hyatt. Had never seen him. I've heard of Al. The first person I saw was Al Locasell, so who I thought Al Davis was. So Reggie Kinlow schooled me real quick. No, that's Loki, man. That's Mr. Locasell. That's not Al Davis. But first time I met Mr. Davis was in training camp up in Santa Rosa. I'm walking off the field, and he comes. He comes in. Because he was in and out of court with all of the litigations with, the Raiders trying to move to Los.
Right, because this is before the move.
Exactly. So that was, he was preoccupied with that during the summer. So, anyways, when he comes up to me, he comes up and he says, I saw you play against Colorado, and your senior year, and you split that secondary. He says, I knew I had to have you. Welcome to the Raider organization. From that point forward, Mr. Davis and I have had a wonderful relationship. I loved him. He loved me. I could get upset. He could calm me down. He could get upset. I could calm him down. But it was never a moment that I ever felt like I was not a part of this organization or loved by this organization. And he was just a wonderful man.
It's a family, and seeing so obviously we met because I got my start with the Raiders organization doing the media. Now seeing with the NFL alumni, seeing all the other sports organizations, there's some tight knit organizations, but I have yet, and I don't think I ever will, see a family environment like the Oakland Raiders. Well, the Raiders brand has. No,
I don't think so either. I mean, I look at Houston. Houston does some things. I've been invited to some events.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been back because I really didn't feel like I was a part of that organization. I was drafted as a rookie. I was treated as a rookie. I was liked as a rookie. I was not respected as a member of that organization. And so when it comes time, and when I got traded, I was happy about being traded. And like I said, I've had opportunities to go back and do some things with the Houston Oilers, and I haven't done it. But it's something I would like to do because I would like to see some of those players again. I would like to have a conversation with those players again.
Right.
And and it's not about what happened 40 years ago. It's it's about where we're at today. How's your life? Yeah. What's going on in your life? Where's your kids? How's your grandkids? And so forth, et cetera. I thought Bum Phillips was a great coach. I didn't like Bum Phillips because he didn't have anything to say to me. But you know what? Bum Phillips respected me. He drafted me. He drafted me in the 3rd round. So there was something about me that he liked. one thing I loved about Bum Phillips was that, we had just broke training camp, and we'd gone to San Angelo, been down there for 6 weeks, and now we're back in Houston. He comes in, he says, "Man," he said, we're we're down to our final. We're down to our 55 players right now, and this is who we're going to be playing with." He said, "When we practice, we're going to practice for an hour and a half." He says, "We're going to have our meetings. I want you to be on time for those meetings." He says, "Practice is an hour and a half. It's only 1 hour and a half." He says, and it says, if you ain't going to get it, you ain't going to be here." And that's exactly how he said it. And you know what? And that was one of the things that, you go out there, you do your hour and a half practice, you get off that field, you go to Captain Benny's down there by the Marriott Hotel and grab a couple of beers and some oysters and some and some fried shrimp and go home, and you're done at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Now I mean, they're getting there at training camp. They're getting into the practice facility 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Ain't leaving until like 6 o'clock in the evening. But that's the difference between the game then and now. But like I said, Bum Phillips was a great coach because he understood players, and I tell you what, Tom Flores is the same way. Tom was just quiet. Tom was more of a quiet. He was a quiet leader, but he got his point across very well. And why he's not in the Hall of Fame, let's not even get started on that.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I know if you go down to an Oilers reunion, I know you got some big jewelry on your fingers. You'll be flexing there.
When I went to hey Charlie, when I retired, I moved to Denver. That was an interesting.
Wow.
That was
How long were you there?
I got to Denver in 1991.
Oh, geez.
And I lived in Denver until 2003.
Really?
Yes. So I was the only, and I told him, I said, "I'm the only one in this city that's got world championship rings. Y'all don't have them." I said, "And I got them off of your back." So, but it was short-lived because they finally got to the pinnacle and made it happen. And check this out. When Mike Shanahan came on as the head coach of the Denver Broncos, I was working for UPS. I was a supervisor, on-car supervisor for UPS, and I was thinking about considering going over to and trying to get a job with the organization. And I talked to Mike because Mike was a graduate assistant at Oklahoma when I was there. So there's that connection.
Yeah.
But you got to understand something. It was one of those situations where if I took a job with the Denver Broncos, my relationship with the Raider organization would have been over. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
So it made my stomach hurt hearing it.
So it was one of those situations where it's like I just stayed on with Mike asked. He said, "Well, come, let's talk, And I never did follow up with him. I said, I realized that I was putting myself in harm's way if I did that, and I didn't want to lose my relationship with the Raider organization.
Absolutely.
It was a job. It was a paying job, but
yeah, too much history. He wound up wearing the best uniform there is in pro sports, folks. And you know what? In 2021, the NFL lifts the rule, or hopefully it'll lift the rule, where teams can carry more than one color helmet. So hopefully the Titans will be able to suit up as the Oilers again. They'll be able to use that uniform. Yeah. It's
nice.
Such a silly rule now. They're only allowed to all these different uniforms the teams have, and they can only carry one helmet.
One helmet, yeah. So, the Raiders, and that silver and black was just, wearing those colors. Yeah, it was unique.
Fit for a king.
Huh?
It's fit for a king.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. I've got 2 packages here.
So Kenny, you got 2 packages sitting there. When I saw these things, I said, okay, I got the king has to have these, and I gotta have his reaction when he opens them. I gotta hear the story behind them.
Okay. Oh, nice. Plunkett the King for 80 yards, 3rd and 4, 10:09, Super Bowl 15, Louisiana Superdome, January 25th, 1981, Philadelphia 10, Oakland 27. Very nice. Shows a play and everything.
Take
That
us
is
through that
nice.
play,
Thank you.
man.
That is awesome. Where's the stickum?
I figured, we put stickum on the handle. It might get a little dicey.
I gotta have a stickum. I'm gonna drop my cup.
You know what? Hold on. I got you right here. I got you right here. I got you, King.
It's a stickum.
We got the stickum.
Let me put a little bit on my hand.
Take us into that play.
So one for me and one for my wife. Okay, one for me, one for my wife. I will share with her.
The King's got to share with the Queen.
I
That
would
could
definitely
get
share
you a
with.
couple extra months in the room too.
Hey, she calls herself Queen of Kings.
Of course.
This is nice. Thank you.
Absolutely. So take us into that play, man. Take us into the 80 yards.
Gosh, that play, it was just I don't remember what the play was called. It was just know that my route was to just run a 5-yard flat. I'm just running a 5-yard flat out. But what happened is you go back and you look at it. Charles Harrison he was coming down on Jim. He was, he was almost there.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Robinson, now who should have been covering me,
mm-hmm.
he falls off and he starts going for the sack as well. So when Jim saw that and saw just a little bit of room in between, and then Herm had taken two steps up,
right,
and it was just a soft lob over Herman Edwards' head, and it was just like right there in front of the bench, and all I could do was catch it and run. Oh. And the beauty of it is that my dad was sitting in that corner of the end zone.
Wow.
Yeah. So he told me, he says, "Son, you were running right toward me. You were coming to me." And that was his first Super Bowl ever. And so it's like, that season was such a magical year for me, for the organization, but for me, it did a lot for me because I had played a lot of backup roles. Mm-hmm. Where as a fullback you don't get the recognition. You're the blocking back, and I understand that. That's part of the business. But you feel like you didn't get any of the recognition that you should have or what you were capable of. And now here it was. I am the premier back for the Oakland Raiders, and not only are we here, we are now in the World Championship game. I'm looking at this. I look at the where is that picture at? It's Jim and Van Egan and I were standing there. We're before the introduction of the game.
Yeah. I
was so intense. I bit my lip. I mean, I had literally bit a hole in my lip. I didn't even feel the blood. I walk over and George Anderson comes up to me and goes, "Hey, what's going on? What's wrong with your lip? What's wrong with your lip?" And I'm like, nothing. What are you talking about? Well, I had a hole in it, but it wasn't like, I needed a stitch or anything.
Right.
I was just so intense and so caught up in the moment, because I was ready. I mean, I was ready to play this game. You've never been there, and now you get an opportunity to be there.
Yeah. And the kid's back on turf, folks. The King is back on turf.
Back on, yeah. And it was nice. And I tell you, I was after the game. Interviews were going on, and one of the questions that was asked to me was, "Are you glad that the Oilers traded you?" I looked around the room and I started chuckling. I said, "They didn't trade me. Al Davis came and got me."
Raider for life.
I mean, come on, baby. Simple Black. I'm a world champion. I'm not sitting there going, I'm sitting there waiting, I'm watching. And it's like, but my rookie season in Houston, I mean, it was memorable too because
Sure.
we almost, I mean, we came very close except for that call in the end zone with Renfro. And if you go back and you look at that play now, it was a touchdown, but we were in Three Rivers and we were in, we were in Pittsburgh. So we weren't going to get out of that with
no reviews then.
So anyways.
Wow. And there he is now, royalty. Everything happens for a reason, though, man.
Everything happens for a reason.
That.
Yes.
Oh, man. Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time to catch up on the NFL Alumni Lounge, man. I miss you. I can't wait till this COVID's over so we could actually, have some tailgating, eat some of that King's Q sauce and do it right.
Ooh, I did something the other day, and I tell you what, my neighbors, all of my neighbors love me. When they smell the smoke in the yard, they start walking down the street, and I'm like going, no, this is not for you. This is for other people. But hey, thank you, and I appreciate all you do, man. And my boy, one last picture I want to show you.
Oh man, is that young CB and Kenny King? Oh, what a picture! What a picture. We miss Cliff so bad, man. With his birthday just passing, isn't it something like Cliff? First of all, speed kills, and that's a motto I know you both live by. But I mean, what a man. Cliff was just a spirit that could light up every room. Always had a smile on his face, and man, I miss him every day.
I have never met a person who had anything bad to say or negative about Cliff Branch in my entire life. And I travel, a lot. I've been to a lot of Raider events. I've been to a lot of just different events, and people have nothing but great things to say about that man and what he brought, what he did off the field, and what he did on the field was electrifying. But this was my rookie season. Well, my first year, which was my rookie season. I lived with Cliff for about 6 months.
Oh, that had to be something else, folks.
Yep. Yeah. So we knew each other very well, and it was like my brother. And for to the day he passed, it's like it hurt me. That day hurt me. Because I just recently lost my mother and my sister, but then, then it was Cliff, a few months later, and it was just like, I was lost. I was lost for a second. So this picture, this one it's in the corner. This one's going to get blown up. So when you come into the man cave, it's going to be right there so you can see it. It'll be a lot bigger.
Oh, man. I would love a copy of that picture, man. That's a really special shot right there.
I'll get you one.
Absolutely. Oh, man. CB, we miss you, man. And I know he's watching over us. And he's saying, King, don't tell them stories about that house now.
No. He said this. King, he said, special. Come on. We're in Tokyo.
Oh, my God.
What happens in Tokyo stays in Tokyo. My wife was now, when we first met, my wife, she says, what is he talking about? I said, oh, honey, that was before you. Don't worry about it.
But please stop.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. And we'll be catching up soon.
Thank you, sir. You be good.